Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome to the Americans for Limited Government podcast. I am Frank McCaffrey. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and we've got a lot to talk about today. I'm joined by the hyper-informed one, the president of ALG, Rick Manning. And Rick, we have no more Pocahontas, as she was known. Elizabeth Warren has dropped out of the race.
Elizabeth Warren has dropped out of the race, and I guess America decided they didn't want to be lectured by the school marm anymore, and so it's her time is up. And so it appears as though we have the race between the killer bees, Biden and Bernie, and we will see what transpires. But the rebirth of Biden is really a pretty unusual story in American politics, because usually when somebody does as poorly as he did in the retail politics states, which are Iowa and New Hampshire, it's very difficult for them to recover. And yet the anti-Bernie part of the Democratic Party is coalescing around the former vice president. And it's an interesting way to look at it. Bernie's not shown an ability to grow his base, grow his votes above the 25 to 30% that he can get in the party, and as a result, he is finding hard times. The question is whether Elizabeth Warren supporters, few that they may be, the 10, 15% Elizabeth Warren supporters, will add to Bernie's electoral totals, or will they in fact hurt Bernie in terms of continuing the coalition around Biden. So it'll be interesting to watch. It's a dynamic situation. It'll be another thing to keep an eye on is final vote totals in California, which may shift a little bit because the early voting gets counted last, and early voting was where you had all the basic assumptions going before pre-South Carolina baked into the cake. So it'll be interesting to see what shifts occur there, but I don't think there'll be much. So all in all, we got Bernie and Biden, and this was exactly, by the way, the scenario that Bloomberg wanted. The difference is he thought he would be in the Biden position rather than Joe Biden. He thought Biden would be out and would be gone, and the Democratic voters would be forced to choose between Bloomberg and Bernie. And that was what he spent his, and the totals appear to be about $800 million. What he spent his $800 million on was that bet that he would be the other bee in the race and not Biden. And when that didn't occur, when Biden did well in South Carolina, it kind of doomed Bloomberg's effort on Super Tuesday.
Michael Bloomberg did win American Samoa, and he probably spent American Samoa's GDP to win American Samoa.
He spent more. Yes, that's pretty much true. But another interesting sidelight, and this is Tulsi Gabbard is still in the Democratic race, and the rules of the Democratic National Committee's decision on how to do debates, the rules were that if you want a delegate, that you would be able to be in the race and go to the debate. Well, Tulsi Gabbard wanted a delegate in America's Samoa, so she's got one delegate. And that was supposed to be one of the things that triggered your ability to participate in the debates. And so, of course, as soon as Tulsi Gabbard wanted a delegate, the Democrats moved the bar and made it so, no, doesn't matter. You don't get to be in the debate anyway. We're changing the rules. So Tulsi's finding herself in the never-changing bar, and truthfully, the Democrats are scared to death because of Tulsi, who, by the way, I don't agree with on much, but if she ended up in a debate between Bernie, Biden, and Tulsi, Tulsi would attract a lot of support, and it would be a very, very difficult environment for Biden in particular, who needs to consolidate all the non-Bernie support in order to win. So it's going to be an interesting time. The Democratic National Committee is doing all they can to prop up Sleepy Joe.
And Tulsi Gabbard's also probably a lot easier to look at than Joe and Bernie. The the fact that Bernie Sanders was getting a lot of these delegates, a lot of support from candidates who are dropping out, of course, that indicates that it's the powers that be within the Democratic Party who are pushing for Biden, and it's been pretty successful. One of the things I've been hearing, though, and I've seen it on social media, is people were saying, hey, if Biden wins, he should have Bernie supporting him or as a running mate or vice versa. They need to join forces somehow. Do you think that that would work, a Biden-Bernie ticket?
Wow. I do not think that 155 years of total age in a ticket is probably a good idea. And just going back to Tulsi, I think Tulsi's attraction in this race for a lot of people is she's different, she's independent, she speaks her mind. Don't agree with all of her conclusions or many of her conclusions, but she is in fact speaks her mind, and she's just not standard kind of DC speak. She didn't vote for one of the articles of impeachment, for instance, because she didn't think the case was made. So she's actually an honest broker, and I think that's what her real attraction is. And that's why the Democrats can't allow her to be on the stage, because she will provide a contrast between Bernie and Biden, and that she's less pedantic and more thoughtful in her responses, even though once again her conclusions are huge government conclusions. She just doesn't want to put people in jail who don't agree with her. So it's a little bit different perspective than Bernie, and I think that the American people would be attracted to her perspective. It's when you get down to the overall framework that they're dealing with. The Democrats are right now. Things have shifted so dramatically. Biden is actually on a pathway where he could win the nomination in the first ballot. Bernie has a very difficult path to win the nomination on the first ballot. A lot of people are going to be looking at who Biden will be wanting to have as his running mate. I don't think it'll be Bernie. That's just a mistake. But I do believe he's going to go left for his running mate. And that'll be interesting. And the other, because he doesn't want the 30% to drop off, who he would lose from the Bernie scores. Let's say 20% to drop off. He probably, if he's going to go somewhere, he may go. I think he goes left. I think he may go Hispanic. So somebody who you should keep an eye on is Castro, who ran for president, was on the debate stage. Julian Castro from San Antonio, Texas, former HUD secretary under Obama. I think you should keep an eye out for him, because if Biden wants to try to consolidate Hispanic support and increase Hispanic support, and to offset any lost black support that's going to happen from Trump, then he's going to have, that would be a way to go. Plus, they believe it will put Texas in play, certainly force the president to spend a lot more resources in Texas, meaning he wouldn't be able to spend resources elsewhere in some of the states that he can take, that Biden has to defend, or at least try to take back, that Trump won last time. So there's a lot of things that are going on. There's even speculation, which quite honestly I don't believe at all. I think it's just people talking wistfully on the internet. But there is some speculation that the president will move on from Mike Pence as his vice president. That's kind of talk amongst kind of chatter. I don't see any way that happens. No. I've seen the president and vice president together. They are a team. The president has gained a lot of respect for Mike Pence, and he views him as being his right-hand man in every way. And I don't think there's any way that he would alter that equation. So, but it is being talked about, so I thought I'd bring it up.
The thing about Mike Pence is he has played his role well. He has done a good job. There's been talk that Trump was going to try to get rid of him because Trump was getting rid of a lot of people. But, I got a message here. Ola from Mexico City says, Ruben Victor, he says, we love President Trump in Mexico so much. Yeah, we actually found that when we went down to Mexico, that there were a lot of people who loved President Trump down there, despite what we're being led to believe. I got another one here. It says that Thaddeus MD question, and we're waiting for that question. But Trump and Pence have evened each other out. Pence is a less outlandish personality, and Trump is more of like the guy we know who's very provocative with his style, and he speaks his mind, and it's been effective. It was very effective in 2016, and it might well be effective when he's up against Biden or Bernie. So it's been a good ticket, and some say Mike Pence could end up being our next president. I'm still waiting for this question here from Thaddeus MD. But before we get to that question, while he's formulating it, I was wondering, Rick, if I could just ask you a quick question about the award. We didn't get into it too much, that you gave to Jim Jordan of Ohio. Why did you give him that award?
Well, Jim Jordan has been a fighter for freedom for a while. I think he's really, last year, he has been extraordinary in that he not only was fighting for limited government and for on budgets and the like, but he really took the lead and shined during the presidential impeachment process, both in the House Judiciary Committee and as helping the president's team over the Senate side. He's stuck his neck out repeatedly for what's right, and sometimes you just have to say thank you to people who do the right thing. And Jim Jordan has continually done the right thing, and as a result, I thought it was time to recognize him as our Congressman of the Year. We also gave an award to Louis Gohmert earlier in the year as a defender of liberty. It's the only time we've actually given two awards in the same House. Well, that's not true. We had back in 2016. We had co-legislators of the year in Sean Duffy and Paul Gosar. But by and large, we try to keep to one award a year or two to either house. Jim Jordan's achievements were so big that we decided to just make him the legislator of the year, rather than having a senator who we were recognizing. So he is a fighter. He's tough. He's strong. He's got and he doesn't give up. And he's smart. And that's a lethal combination. And I believe that Jim Jordan, should the Republicans take control of the House of Representatives, Jim Jordan will make an extraordinary Judiciary Committee chairman next year. Right now, he's been elevated to ranking member of the Judiciary Committee because the former ranking member, Doug Collins, is running for Senate in Georgia, and as an active candidate for office, for another office, the Republicans replaced him as the ranking member with Jim Jordan. So Jordan's an up-and-comer. He's still a young guy. He's tough, he's strong, he's smart, and I think he's gaining a lot of respect amongst his colleagues. And I want to recognize him because he's fighting the good fight in D.C. Many times you don't get any thank yous when you fight the good fight, and I want to recognize him for that.
Yeah, that is true. And the times we dealt with him, the times I dealt with him, I do remember him being a very professional person. That was my chief takeaway. I said that guy was.
And you would like it. He's a wrestler. In fact, he's so highly respected as a wrestler that he is he's one of those guys. He was an NCAA champion. He wrestled for the University of Wisconsin, even though he's from Ohio. And he's one of those guys who's left a real legacy, wrestling legacy, that other young men are strive to achieve. He goes when the NCAA has their annual awards for wrestling, and he's one of the people who will often go and be there, and just is committed to the growth of young people into becoming men and just really growing into that role. So he's just overall a really good guy, and he's, like I say, he's tough, and he doesn't back down, and he's principled. So.
Okay, I do have a question now that we were waiting on. Of course, the coronavirus. We're hearing the World Health Organization is really pulling out all the stops. There's anticipation that this will be going on for several months now. This gentleman, Thaddeus MD, says there are 0 actual black people with the virus, and when the media speaks about Africa, they do not divulge that those cases are non-ethnically black. They are actually Italians. Why isn't the medical demographics being addressed? normally in my profession medically, we always speak about demographics. You know, that's probably a very good question. Why are we not getting into the demographics? I'm not.
I have no idea. I think, you know, in America we have so few cases that it's really, you know, they're really geographically located, and so we don't really have enough of a sample size to be able to make those conclusions. It's, you know, obviously the cases in China are disproportionately Asian. And in Italy, I haven't looked at the demographics of the disease in Italy. You know, certainly in Iran, it's a very closed society, so you can anticipate that the disease is rampant amongst people and the Iranians. But there's not I haven't seen anything where talking about Africa. One of the things about a flu, and I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm head of Americans for Limited Government, but you know, there's a reason we have.
You didn't know that epidemiologist is in your job description?
No, I didn't. But you have to do. It's sort of like, you know, you get to talk about lots of stuff. I'm not going to make stuff up. What I do know is there is a flu season. Everybody knows there's a flu season. Flu season is when it's cold. Now, I do not know if Africa has a flu season because Africa is warmer. At least a vast majority of Africa is warmer than our climate here in North America. You get into South Africa, it's a more temperate climate, more like here in North America. But by and large, you don't have a lot of, a vast majority of Africa is warmer because it's on the equator. Similarly, South America is warmer, apart from the far south part of South America, is warmer than the United States. It's pretty simple. So if viruses don't do well in warm climates, then a vast majority of the geography of Africa would be inhospitable to the flu virus. And similarly, the same thing can be said for for South America, which extends much further south than Africa. So you do actually get pretty far south and get to colder climates out in Argentina, the southern part of Chile, and the like. So I did really well in geography when we do Trivial Pursuit. So, but that's about the extent of it. My whole assumption is based on there's a flu season, and it means that the flu virus doesn't really survive that well in cold weather. And if that is true, flu season traditionally ends in the United States about middle of April. And if we can weather this storm for the next month and without a tremendous amount of impact, it may be that nature itself takes care of it by warming up and creating an environment where the virus is unlikely to spread because it's too warm for it.
Yeah, now, the New York Times has a map tracking every coronavirus case in the U.S. Let's see, I'm looking at this now. You see, is this map slanted to the left politically, right? But you see, there's not tons of cases.
If they had a map that showed every flu case, the map would be, and comparatively speaking, what we would discover is that the regular flu, is 30 million people got it. About 30 million people got it, and anywhere from I've seen numbers from 10 to 30,000 people die from the flu on an annual basis in the United States.
Yeah.
So the number I've basically seen 12. So I'll stay with 12. So while the flu is much more virulent because it comes earlier and it stays through April, so there's a longer time to get it, and a certain percentage of people, 0.1% of the people in a typical flu season die of the flu, and so you have so there's a lot of deaths from the flu. We just don't know it. So if you took 4-month flu season. A 4-month flu season, and you figure there are 12,000 deaths, that means there's 3,000 deaths a month. 30 days a month, 30 days a month, that means there's 100 deaths. And a day from the regular flu. So, and if we showed 100 deaths a day from the flu, if they went and said, we had deaths here about the flu, we would all be in a total state of panic, nonstop. So, my recommendation, be informed, and, but don't be stupid. This is just yes, this is serious. Yes, everybody should take it serious. But no, we shouldn't panic and get bent out of shape. It appears as though those who are most likely to die from this are older, have pre-existing conditions, lung conditions, which would do it, or are lifetime smokers. It's believed that the reason the Chinese death toll is so much higher, is because, and it's male, is because about 80 to 90% of the men in China smoke. And so you have older men who are dying who've been smoking for 80 years, 60, 70, 80 years. And so their lungs are in bad condition. So that's what looks to be the norm. It doesn't look like children are being that affected. It doesn't look like, it looks like the younger and healthier you are, the less likely you are to be, to have a severe case. And, so act accordingly. If you are in an older age group, be really diligent and pay attention. And, if you're in a younger age group, you still need to be diligent, but you don't need to be, there's no reason to be fearful.
Okay, now also, there are 11 cases now, that's the latest report we have of death due to coronavirus in the United States. That's 11 cases. My son's school, they're taking all kinds of precautions to protect against coronavirus, but one of the things I've heard people say here is that in the school system in America, more people will die playing football than from coronavirus. And as you said, more people will die from the...
I think the fatality rates for playing football are pretty low, but let's say there's, when you look at it and you say, over 50,000 people die in car accidents every year.
Yeah.
Okay. That's 50,000, that's a huge number. Once again, you do math, 12 months a year, you take it to 48,000 for easy math, you get 4,000 deaths a month. So if they reported every single person died of a car accident and did a big chart on it, you would be looking at a chart with 4,000 new deaths a month. There'd be over 125 a day of people who died in car accidents. And every single day, 12 months a year, and it would look like an absolute, nightmare. But it's already built into our assumptions. And we know that it's a relatively rare phenomenon. So when you look at that and then you compare it to the coronavirus, you say, well, we're paying a lot of attention to it, but right now it's a relatively rare phenomenon. And quite honestly, if we get lucky, and this is just lucky, this came about and really started to spread very late in the flu season. The president took actions very early, when he was being impeached, he took actions to stop travel from China to prevent the easy transfer of the coronavirus to America. And as a result of that, we have a relatively low number of cases, a very low number of cases to date. We may end up, it's supposed to grow exponentially, we may end up with a lot more cases and what will seem to be a lot more deaths. But it is and every single death is a tragedy. And let's just be honest, every single death is a tragedy.
Okay.
But but when you compare it to other things, we don't freak out about car accidents, even though 125 people die every single day from car accidents.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. You never hear anyone say, "Man, I fear driving." You don't hear that. Okay, now you hear, "I fear flying," but you don't hear, "I fear driving." We've got a little bit of a.
Numbers in flying are significant, are so much lower as to be almost astronomical in terms of comparison. But yeah, you're right. People are afraid of flying because nobody can figure out how a tin can stays in the air. And I don't know that I can figure out why a tin can stays in the air. I just know it's a lot faster than driving.
Okay, now we have a little bit of a brouhaha, Rick. The gentleman who asked, about coronavirus and the demographics, Thetis MD, writes, did he just call me stupid? I think that was in reference to you saying don't be stupid as far as the panic about coronavirus.
No, I didn't call him stupid. I said, being stupid means going crazy and panicking. It's a legitimate question, and I made it clear I don't know anything. I'm giving numbers, in terms of what's the average numbers. So no. The answer is no. I believe that we should be being stupid is going out and buying out an entire Costco full of supplies when and overreacting in such a dramatic way. We know our public health system, our people in our public health system here in the United States are urging people to back off in terms of buying the masks because they can't get masks for emergency rooms right now because they're not available. They've been bought out by the general public. So just don't panic.
Yeah, and one of the things I've been hearing on social media is people saying, what's going to happen when we find out that the masks cause environmental problems, or the liberals going to come out and ban the surgical masks? I wouldn't be surprised.
Who knows? All I know is if you've got a bunch of masks that you're trying to dispose of and they all have the coronavirus in them, it becomes a rather tricky disposal process, and I don't know what the answer is with that, but what I do know is that we need to let's just be prudent, be smart, and not panic. And if we do that, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, and if you want to make a few bucks, maybe you can get into the surgical mask industry and mass produce a few.
That's. I'm sure that we could do some. There's lots of people trying to create masks that have absolutely no value whatsoever, but they're cheap, and so they can flood the market with them, and some people will buy them. But if you're buying your mask from a guy who normally is playing three-card Monte on the street, you might consider that that's a bad investment.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rick. I think it's time for us to wrap this thing up, but always a pleasure to talk to you. Again, please subscribe. YouTube, subscribe. We need to get to the 1,000 mark, and we always have very scintillating conversations here during this ALG podcast, and who knows what we're going to be talking about tomorrow because the news keeps changing. Seems like every time we turn around, there's something new that breaks that we've got to address. So we don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Probably more coronavirus. I guess we can bet on that.
I think if we can find something other than coronavirus, I'd be happy.
Yes.
Perhaps what we'll talk about tomorrow is whether Mike Trout will hit 40 home runs or 50 home runs, and will he get his 4th MVP award. So for tomorrow, we might have all Mike Trout talk all the time as an Anaheim, LA, California, LA, Anaheim, LA Angels of Anaheim, and now LA again fan. I can assure you that I am following Mike Trout very closely, and I can assure you that if you want to find out about Mike Trout, check out Mike Trout Hits a Golf Ball on YouTube. It is very cool. He just hits the golf ball harder than any golf ball should ever be hit. We'll say goodbye.
All right, and we'll see you. Check out Mike Trout Hits a Golf Ball, ladies and gentlemen.